That was yesterday's Marlboro Challenge, and now we're ready for our live coverage of the champion spark plug 300-kilometer run. It's the final race in the IndyCar season. The kart season has been one of contact and confrontation. It started at Long Beach, where Mario Andretti was fighting with Al Unser Jr. for the lead of the race. Little Al went on to take the win. With 4 miles left at Indianapolis, Little Al and Emerson Fittipaldi fought for the lead. It was worth $1 million for Emo. On the streets of Detroit, Fittipaldi and Mario Andretti tangled on the very first corner, but both were able to continue on. Then, locked again as Fittipaldi fought his way back through the field. Emo would go on to score the win. Now, Fittipaldi was on a hot streak. At Portland, Scott Pruitt was locked in a battle with Al Unser Jr. With no serious damage to either car, Little Al would restart and continue his fight. In a driving rain at the Meadowlands, Fittipaldi and Bobby Rahal in a battle for the lead. Rahal would take this one, the former IndyCar champion's only win this year. At Toronto, Mario Andretti, trying to pass Teo Fabi, ripped into Roberto Guerrero's parked Alfa. Thankfully, Mario was not injured. In the closing laps, Michael Andretti pushed Fittipaldi aside and took the victory. During the qualifying at Mid-Ohio, Teo Fabi was caught up by Fabrizio Barbazza, cutting the rear suspension off of Teo's car and sending him out of control and nearly head-on into Scott Pruitt. But Teo would come back to take the victory, a first for Porsche in the IndyCars. At Elkhart Lake, Danny Sullivan would use the racetrack and a little more to get past Michael Andretti on the last lap as Michael ran out of fuel. Sullivan went on past and picked up the checkered flag, his second win of the 1989 season. At Nazareth, the championship fight was between Mears and Fittipaldi. Mears ripped a hose loose on his last stop, giving the race and the IndyCar championship to Emerson Fittipaldi. The IndyCars and their drivers are ready for the final run of 1989. It's been a long road, rough and tumble. The emphasis today shifts from a points fight to an old-fashioned shootout for the bragging rights of being the season's last winner. Cars that need not race again are today driven by men with something to prove. ESPN, celebrating 10 years as the world's leader in motorsports television, presents Speed World. Well, they cover the hillside and line the circuit. Race fans over 65,000 strong, ready to hear the command for the last time of the 1989 season. And here it is.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
Begins to build for the last time in this 1989 racing season. Danny Sullivan of the Penske stable sits ready to go. His teammate Rick Mears just across the way. The engines fired, started, and looking forward to a start. On board with Al Unser Jr. Teo Fabi stares ahead, contemplating his run here at Laguna Seca. 300 kilometers lie ahead, and the IndyCars are set to go racing. Rick Mears sits poised and ready to go. The Pacific Ocean, Monterey, California, at Laguna Seca Raceway, one of the prettiest road racing circuits in the world. Hello, I'm Paul Page, and this is the last race of the 1989 season for the IndyCars, and a very important run. Even though the championship has been decided and Emerson Fittipaldi is the champion, there's still a lot of positions to be decided. And Johnny Rutherford, it's also a chance for a lot of drivers just plain to show off.
Well, it really is, Paul. As you've said, it's their chance to get their better position in the finishing standings for the CART PPG Cup. It's also the time when they entertain sponsors. They have the people out here that make it all happen. Give them the chance to do the running they want to. So they want to impress their sponsors, make a good showing, and this is a beautiful place to do it.
And if you're a road racer, this is a circuit that you'd know very well and where you really can make your style look good.
Oh, yes, it is. In fact, it has become one of the better circuits for the Indy cars because of the improvements here. They've made it very smooth, new paving. The course has been changed as far as the direction that it goes and everything. It is a fantastic facility, and as you've said, one of the prettiest in the world.
And it makes for one great race. Now we've got a starting grid that is packed full of excitement and a few surprises. Let's take a look.
On the pole is Rick Mears, who set a new track record to earn the second road course pole of his career. Alongside is his teammate Danny Sullivan, the defending champion of this event. The second row, Teo Fabi, the winner of the inaugural event here back in 1983. Outside is Michael Andretti, who won the Toronto race and the Michigan 500 this year. The third row, Bobby Rahal, the master of Monterey. He won this event 4 different times. And Al Unser Jr., who won yesterday's Marlboro Challenge. The fourth row, Emerson Fittipaldi, the newly crowned kart IndyCar world champion. And Mario Andretti, who is desperately looking to end a 15-month losing streak. Scott Pruitt in the fifth row, currently 8th in the point standings. And Derek Daly, who finished 7th on this course 1 year ago. The sixth row, Arie Luyendyk, who finished 2nd at Portland last year, but is still looking for his first win. And Raoul Boesel, his sparkling effort at Indy netted him a career-best third-place finish. Didier Taze, the Belgium driver, finished 3rd in last season's finale at Miami. And Scott Brayton, making his first start on this course since 1985. Fabrizio Barbazza, the younger Italian, finished 3rd in the 1987 Indianapolis 500 in only his 3rd career start. And John Jones, the 1988 kart Rookie of the Year. Dominic Dobson made his IndyCar debut here at Laguna Seca 4 years ago. And Randy Lewis, who has 7 career top 10 finishes, all of them on road courses. In row 10, Kevin Kogan and Rocky Moran filling in for A.J. Foyt. The 11th row, Roberto Guerrero and John Andretti. The 12th row, Pancho Carter with 150 IndyCar starts and Steve Saleen. The 13th row, Ken Johnson and Guido Dacco. And in the 14th and final row, Jan Bikas and Bernard Jourdain, the leading candidate for kart's Rookie of the Year honors. So that's your starting field. You look now from the nose of Arie Luyendyk's car as they continue on their parade laps. Penske on the front row, and Jack Arute is in that pit.
Paul, when we started the season in Phoenix, Arizona, the team to beat was that of Team Penske. They put their cars on the front row out there, but through various and sundry problems throughout the season, they saw their quest for the championship escape their grasp at Nazareth, Pennsylvania 1 race ago. It went to Emerson Fittipaldi, as we said, but the team now wants to try and end the season the way they started. They put their cars on the front row here at Laguna Seca. But what's interesting is the fact that Danny Sullivan is on the outside of the front row here. He's Team Penske's acknowledged road racing veteran. The man that's on the inside of the front row, Rick Mears, who's acknowledged as their oval track expert. In fact, Mears has never won a pole since 1982 on a road course. He's done it here at Laguna Seca, and he'd like to silence the critics this afternoon who say he cannot get the job done on a road course. Now, there's been a lot of other action here at Laguna Seca this weekend, namely in the Marlboro Challenge. And for some of the repercussions that came from a late race, post-race action, let's check in with Gary Gerald.
Jack, the most noteworthy incident involved 2 drivers who've had great success in this race course. Bobby Rahal, 4-time winner. Teo Fabi, a winner in his rookie IndyCar season. It came on the last lap of the Marlboro Challenge. Coming to the checkered flag, Rahal, nursing an ailing engine, held off Fabi for 3rd place. Teo burst on by. As they got to turn 2, Teo dramatically so'd. He was rear-ended hard by Rahal. Fortunately, minor damage, no injuries, but kart officials were not happy. They have fined both drivers substantially, and they placed Teo Fabi on a 6-race probation through the start of the 1990 racing season, meaning that if there's a reoccurrence of such incidents, he could be subject to further disciplinary action, either a stiffer fine or possibly even a suspension. Something that both drivers will have to keep in mind now as we start this event. And ironically, Rahal starts inside row 3, and right in front of him is Teo Fabi inside row 2. Paul?
So one problem, though, while the cars continue to warm up on the parade laps, the 14 car, normally driven by A.J. Foyt, but being started by Rocky Moran, already coasted into the pits. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Paul, it was almost an unexplained did not start. A.J., what's the problem?
Well, I guess when they stopped up there, I don't know what happened, but something happened to the engine when they refired it up, and it's got water running all that, so just come apart. I can't believe it, but it happened.
Now, you've already told us that you are going to come back to Indianapolis Motor Speedway next year and give it another try, but with what power plant? There is a Chevrolet that will be open now. Do you think you've got a shot at getting that Chevy power?
Well, I sure hope we do. Naturally, we'd like to run a Chevrolet because it's probably my last year, and we want to try to win the race one more time.
You say probably will be your last year. Will it be your last year, or will it be determined after it?
Well, if I win it, I might quit.
Paul?
All right, the great A.J. Foyt looking off the nose of Arie Luyendyk's car. Temperature today a little cool. Not really a chance of rain, so we should have a good dry run the entire way here at Laguna Seca course. The course itself, 11 turns, 7 to the left, 4 to the right, 179 feet elevation change top to the bottom of the course, and of course 2.2 miles around. The field beginning to form up. Here's what's on the line today in the race analysis, and of course, in addition to that $550,000 purse, there'll be a lot of drivers fighting for point positions in the PPG point standings, because the season comes to an end with the checkered flag today. The field formed up now, heading for the 11th and final turn. The PPG pace car has pulled off the edge of the pit apron, and now they come for that final turn. Rick Mears is to the front and to the left. His teammate Danny Sullivan to the outside and the right. Mears decided the inside position was the better starting position for this race. The field juggles around just a bit as the green flag comes out, and we're racing. Mears and Sullivan, a drag race down to the first turn as Sullivan noses just ahead. Michael Andretti pulls up to the outside, but it's not a position that he can maintain. Sullivan takes the lead. Rick Mears drops back to second. Michael Andretti continues to charge up behind Rick Mears. Then Al Unser Jr. on board with little Al now. That's Michael lying just ahead as Danny Sullivan is able to pull a bit away from Rick Mears. Nice, safe, and smooth start with Danny Sullivan coming across the front of his teammate on the exit of the third corner and picking up the lead.
You know, I don't think that's quite what Rick Mears wanted, Paul. He would hope to have led this thing, but Danny Sullivan is doing extremely well. His car is working good. It was yesterday, and so I think that's my pick for today.
The number 1 Miller High Life car out in front. Danny Sullivan driving it. He won this race 1 year ago. But Rick Mears, on the other hand, is a driver who says, oh, I'm not really sure I ever want to jump out on the start. If it happens, I'm glad to be there, but if it doesn't, it's okay with me. Now he has his hands full with Michael Andretti, who's tucked in right behind as we come to the completion of the first lap. 84 laps, the scheduled distance here at Laguna Seca. Number 1 is now complete, and Danny Sullivan goes into the record book as the leader of lap number 1. The fight is for second place. It's a 3-car battle. Rick Mears, Michael Andretti, and then Teo Fabi with a problem. Al Unser Jr. Teo Fabi slowed down. Raul Boisel in the Domino's car got past there. The battle for second place closes up. And we're seeing a bit of a spray coming at the back of Little Al's car. I wonder what that means.
I don't know. It's hard to tell at this point. It did one place where he had to lock the brakes up and smoke a tire, so must be something coming out of the car, either just a little wisp of smoke from the oil tank or something.
We'll keep an eye on Al Unser Jr., who currently runs in 4th place. Danny Sullivan begins to pull away as Rick Mears still has his mirrors full of Michael Andretti, though Michael has dropped back just a bit as they climb the hill once again, coming all the way up to the top. Line just ahead is that marvelous corkscrew as they come downhill, weaving right then left.
Yes, Rick Mears has pulled up a little bit of distance on Michael now, so he evidently got his tires warmed up, and he's going on up to Sullivan.
Bobby Rahal is now beginning to close in on this fight as well. Rahal runs just behind this car, Al Unser Jr. in 5th place, then Mario Andretti, and then Derek Daly, then Emerson Fittipaldi, then Arie Luyendyk. Scott Pruitt now runs in 10th place. Completion of the second lap. Danny Sullivan is still out in front. He's widened the interval now. He's now nearly 2 seconds out in front of Rick Mears in 2nd place. Michael Andretti takes a little lower entry into the turn. Al Unser Jr. right there, reminiscent of yesterday's Marlboro Challenge. And again, as he upshifts, you're seeing that spray at the back of the car.
At the very same place, Paul. So we've not noticed it anywhere else around the course. So something right there is causing the car to smoke a bit when he makes a gear shift.
On board with Al Unser Jr. in a very successful Marlboro Challenge, but now is trying to move up from his 4th position and catch Michael Andretti. Rick Mears is able to pull a little bit away. Seems to be getting off some of the tighter corners just a little bit better. Al Unser Jr. Frustrating season, he says. He started with a win, of course, had a win in the Marlboro Challenge, but it's not the season he would have liked to see. But look at that. He comes by Michael Andretti, and again we see that puff of smoke, which would give me to believe that maybe that engine isn't long for the world. As look at this, Danny Sullivan slows down. They all come around Sullivan, so Danny Sullivan with a problem very early on. And now Rick Mears has the lead again, and Al Unser Jr. is in pursuit, followed by Michael and then Bobby Rahal. I wonder what happened to Sullivan.
Oh, that's incredible that he would break out into that much of a lead, and here he is coasting into the pits, into his pit. It looks like it's done for the day.
Well, Danny Sullivan, the Penske team comes over the wall. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Well, the motor running, Paul, but the motor is just word here as to what the...
Well, they're going to work on the front of the car. The shock absorbers are down in that section. Perhaps they need a readjustment, or maybe one's broken. It also could be a brake problem there.
It could be. They're working on in the area where the brake pedals and the reservoirs are as well. So they're busy working in the front of that car, and two of them in the same area there. Something is in the way or caused a problem. Danny showing frustration. He's talking to them on the radio.
Gary Gerald was trying to tell us that it is probably a brake problem. And remember, this car, the current leader, Rick Mears, had a brake problem in the Marlboro Challenge. So perhaps there is something to consider there. Those cars, the PC-18s, have not shown that kind of trouble at any time during this year. Rick Mears started on the pole. Danny Sullivan was able to get around Rick on the third corner and then suffered his problem, came into the pits. That gave the lead back to Rick Mears, who's now being pursued by Al Unser Jr., who was able to move up and get around Michael Andretti. Then Bobby Rahal and Mario Andretti. We're back at Laguna Seca. You ride in the nose of the R.A. Lyondike's Provimi machine. Just ahead, you can see Emerson Fittipaldi from time to time as Lyondike closes in from 7th place on the 6th place running Fittipaldi. Then just ahead of Emo is Mario Andretti. The top 4, Rick Mears, Al Unser Jr., and Michael Andretti, followed by Bobby Rahal. Here's Teo Fabi. He started 3rd, and he suffered a problem, dropped back to 11th, and has now come forward a bit in 10th place. No indication as to what the problem might have been. He pulled widely off the line, let a couple of cars get under him and passed, and now seems to be running back on the pace.
It's very hard to say. He might have had a problem gear shifting. Something might have clicked in the car and had a problem. Here we have a chance to look at Al Unser Jr. chasing Rick Mears. What a shot. These IndyCar cameras are fantastic.
As they climb the hill now, continuing elevation climb. Let's watch as Al Unser Jr. pursues Rick Mears, the leader. Down to the corkscrew. Well, you think that little downhill run isn't a thrill to the stomach at the speeds they're going.
They have just repaved this section of the course, and it is very smooth.
Through the 11th and final turn, onto the pit straight once again, and you can see little Al is tucked right in behind Rick. Rick looks over to his left mirror just to make sure he knows where little Al is. Through the first turn, now in pursuit the second turn. Let's see if Al Unser Jr. is going to make a move. This was the favorite part of the course for little Al in the Marlboro Challenge, but Rick is able to keep him back. Let's go to the pits and Gary Gerald.
Well, Paul, the situation for Danny Sullivan, we confirm, is brake. That's what we had suspected. It was a brake problem for Rick Mears yesterday. They said it was a mechanical problem when they took the car apart last night. They were fully confident there would be no such difficulty today. Sullivan radioed that he had absolutely no brakes after a first lap vibration. They are checking the master cylinder up front. Spent a long time in the pits. Obviously no chance to win. He's hoping he'll still get a chance to go out and do a little racing yet this afternoon, but it has to be extreme disappointment for a man who will surrender the #1 at the end of this day. Let's check with Jack Arute.
Gary, remember yesterday Michael Andretti ran a fuel economy run. He was short shifting and just trying to hold on to his fuel and said he wasn't able to race in the Marlboro Challenge. Well, the team worked into the wee hours of the morning today trying to recalibrate the car itself and also the engine management system. They said the initial laps today would determine when they would pit. They were going to follow Teo Fabi, but that's gone out the window. They intend to pit now on lap 28, and the initial thing is that they feel that they're going to be able to get better gas mileage today, more fuel due to the recalibration, and working well into the night.
Now, Michael Andretti currently running in third place. We're back at the front of the field. Nothing's changed there as Little Al continues his pursuit. Talking about the Danny Sullivan Penske PC-18 for a moment, Johnny Rutherford. It looked like they were putting brake fluid in there. That would indicate perhaps a leak in the system?
Well, it would have to be. You know, the fluid's got to go somewhere, and I'm sure braking very hard on the first lap, he was into the brakes hard, and it got to that wherever it was leaking from and just forced it out of the system, and now he's having to replenish the reservoirs.
Rick Mears really on the fly. Best speed thus far at 106.2 miles an hour. That's a pretty good run considering he's on full fuel tanks right now. Fuel beginning to burn off.
It's interesting to see the difference in strategies here. You know, we're seeing guys not running or pushing quite as hard to make the pass like we saw in the challenge race. So this is the extra 100 miles added on. You've got to think about the end of it rather than going for it all day.
You know, I still can't help but wonder about that occasional puff of blue smoke that we see at the back of Allinger Jr.'s car here on the pit straight again as he continues his pursuit of Rick Mears, but not as close as he was on the last lap.
Well, Paul, that puff of smoke could have been just a little bit of an overfill of the reservoir. You know, just a little bit too much oil. He might have been pumping out. Danny Sullivan now back into the race, heading down pit road.
Sullivan with a 6-minute and 12-second pit stop as they make repairs to his brakes. Now, he's currently 6th in the point standings. He'll fall to 7th if Mario Andretti finishes 3rd or higher. Well, Mario Andretti right now is running in 5th, but Danny Sullivan has fallen completely off of the charts. Rick Mears, his teammate, well, he's out in front. Little Al continues the chase on Laguna Seca. Magnificent course, 11 turns, 7 to the left, favoring perhaps a driver like Rick Mears. It seems that drivers that have made their name on an oval tend to like left-handed turned road courses. Rick Mears out in front. We're back at Laguna Seca. The fight is still for the lead. Rick Mears trying to hold off Allinger Jr. There's some other good fighting going on in this circuit. Look from the rear, you can see Rick Mears begin to show a vortex tail off of his wings because of the high humidity here and the high speeds attained by that car. Rick gets off that corner just a little bit better. Allinger Jr. drops back just a bit. Now they come through a series of right-handers. This is part of the new circuit that was added to give this circuit an international standing so they could run Grand Prix bikes here. And the IndyCar drivers absolutely love the addition.
Oh, it has really made a change here.
Scott Pruitt battles with Derek Daly. This is a fight right now for 8th place. Daly currently in 8th in the Rayner car. Number 10 there in front in the 3 Budweiser car of Pruitt. And then the Quaker State Porsche of Teo Fabi. He dropped back to 11th, came forward to 10th, and now he seems to be stuck here for a while. They were running just behind Danny Sullivan, who's back out on the circuit and a number of laps behind the leaders. And then Sullivan was able to pull steadily away. You're on board now with Scott Pruitt as he chases Derek Daly just up ahead. They come up to the top of the hill. The corkscrew lies just ahead. See the brakes on Daly's car as he slaps down on that pedal. For race drivers, Johnny Rutherford, the changes in elevation really are a lot of fun. It adds another dimension to racing.
It does, and it keeps you so busy that you lose track of time. There we see Fabi making a move, trying to get down on the inside, didn't quite get it handled. But you're right, it is a lot of fun on this course because it does change drastically. And you like you say, you lose track of time, you're running out there. It's an opportunity to stay very, very busy, and the race is over before you know it.
Well, the fight here is for 9th. Teo Fabi showed his prowess as he tried to come inside under heavy braking of Scott Pruitt's car. I had a chance to drive the Porsche at the Nürburgring, and one of the things, John, that surprised me most about the Indy cars was that the brakes are so powerful. On that car, you go past the last marker and then hit the brakes, and Teo takes it a little bit off the edge of the course.
He was pushing it a little bit hard there, trying to get in position on Pruitt. You're right. The braking ability of these cars is fantastic. You can go very, very deep. You think there's no way you can make it. Oh, I've overcooked it, and bang, you jump on the brakes, slows you down, you get in the right gear, and everything comes out right, hopefully.
I got to tell you, that was a thrill to be able to drive an Indy car there. And I got to tell you, too, don't you guys ever call it work in front of me again.
Well, you had a lot of fun with it, but I can assure you, and then under these conditions, it's a little bit different, Paul.
Yeah, I was just the only guy out there and only going as fast as I wanted to go. Derek Daly, the Rayner car, as he maintains his position ahead of Pruitt. And they come up alongside Bernard Jourdain. And the first two get past Jourdain without any problem, and now Teo Fabi comes fast. So Scott Pruitt continues his pursuit now of Derek Daly. We talked to Pruitt before the start of this particular race and asked him about this, his first full year driving in the IndyCars for True Sports.
A couple weeks ago when we were at Nazareth, I was comparing how I felt at Nazareth compared to how I was at Phoenix. I mean, I was a fish out of water at Phoenix. I was, just didn't know what to do, was real nervous, didn't know how to set up the car and so on. And then Nazareth really attacking the course, attacking the car, and then making changes, boom, 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 whether it's shocks or springs or whatever, and really being able to pick apart the car. And to me, that was real satisfying.
Scott Pruitt, young man, perhaps with some decisions to make here very shortly. Perhaps in the next year, and he'll stay with True Sports for a year, but he's got to be thinking about Formula One. He's still young. If he wants to go over and run Europe, he's going to have to do it pretty quickly. So Scott Pruitt now runs in 9th place, still trying to chase down Derek Daly. Teo Fabi is in 10th, but Rick Mears and Al Unser are still battling at the front of this field. We're back at Laguna Seca in California for the final race of the IndyCar season. The yellow and blue Craco machine number 18 of Bobby Rahal as he tries to run down Michael Andretti in a battle for 3rd place. A couple of good fights going on now. This is the best on the course. At the front of the field, Rick Mears and Al Unser Jr. continue to watch one another quite warily. And Al Unser Jr. is tucked up right behind Rick Mears. This is Michael Andretti's wife, Sandy. She watches from the scoring tower. She's not one of the world's greatest fans of racing. She likes to see Michael win, but she's uncomfortable from time to time with some of the high speeds. Al Unser Jr. looking up to Rick Mears as they begin to encounter other cars on the circuit now and work their way through traffic. And now they have the 29 car. Belongs to Pancho Carter, who has started 150 IndyCar races in his career, and they move around Pancho.
Rick Mears has been able to run a very smooth race, and it's starting to show because he has a little daylight. Now that they're picking up some of the back markers, it's an opportunity for him to put somebody in a critical spot between himself and Al and use that to get a little bit more distance.
Al Unser Jr. pulls his hand up, probably to pull a tearaway off the front of his helmet.
Yes, they stack up little thin clear sheets on there, and you can rip them off one at a time, and as they get dirtied up or sandblasted, you can reach up and grab the corner of the top one, pull it off, and let it fly into the air, and they'll be laying toward the end of the race. You see tear-offs laying all over the racetrack.
So Al Unser Jr. with Rick Mears lying just ahead, and when you tuck in nice and close behind Rick Mears like that, you'll get an occasional spray off the exhaust of his engine. We've been talking about that problem, that at least what we note as a problem, this little blue puff at the time to time at the back of little Al's car. Now perhaps Jack Arute can update us.
Well, Paul, what we did is we checked in with the Team Gallus, to see what they thought about it, and they said, according to Rick Gallus, that it's nothing more than just a little bit of turbo smoke, a little turbo kickback when he comes up through the gearbox.
We got a view there of Carl Haas, the owners of Newman Haas Racing, with his ever-present cigar. He chews on that thing during the entire race and mumbles to himself throughout the race as he keeps track of his cars around the circuit. Mario Andretti currently running in 5th, and Michael Andretti running in 3rd. Mario has come up now behind Bobby Rahal and is challenging Rahal in a fight for 4th place. The leaders are getting around here just over 105 miles an hour now. Now that's a bit slower than some of the faster laps. The average speed of the race at 105, and Rick Mears' best lap to this point at 106.8. Bobby Rahal, the master of Monterey, they call it. And he had 4 straight wins here. Can he do it again today? He certainly knows this course perhaps better than any man.
Well, he does. Of course, when he won those, it was on the old course before they put this extra added bit in the center of the racetrack to make it longer. So it's a little different now, but he's still a very formidable competitor.
And he's riding in between the two Kmart Haviland machines. Michael Andretti just in front, Mario Andretti just behind, and Emerson Fittipaldi is now beginning to close in behind Mario Andretti. So the top of the order is still Rick Mears, then Al Unser Jr., then Michael, then Bobby, then Mario, then Emerson Fittipaldi, then Ari Luyendyk in 7th, Scott Pruitt in 8th. Teo Fabi has moved up to 9th as both of those got around Derek Daly. Now to Bobby Rahal, the question is the layout of the track since it's been changed. What do you think of those changes?
This is a great track. It's just, there are a lot of very good corners on this track. And the old one obviously was a favorite of mine, but it was a little bit, I don't know if it was quite as challenging as this one. This one is a physically, mentally very demanding.
So watching Bobby Rahal, the number 18 Hunter Pop's Craco car, and you can see that Mario Andretti is now closing in right behind him and beginning to worry him.
Yeah, you know, Mario has been due. He's had problems all year. We saw earlier the crash that he had at Toronto, and all of the problems with the car he's had this season. It could be that he's right in the right spot to make the move when it comes time.
Well, a lot of speculation about a number of drivers, a number of teams here at Laguna Seca. There's Arie Luyendyk in the Provimi car, and Scott Pruitt, as Pruitt has managed to come forward now. Luyendyk is running in 7th place, and Pruitt is lying in 8th. Well, one of the drivers would be that man just out in front, Arie Luyendyk. Question of where he goes next year. Some speculations say that maybe something goes together with Shearson. What do you hear, John?
Well, that's the strongest rumor, and I think that's probably close to a done deal, because Arie is a young guy that wants to do well in this business. And surprising to me, I think, when he first came along, he didn't seem to have you know, he wasn't the right kind for this sport, but boy, has he come on strong. And I think Arie is just looking for that right venue where he can get in there and show what he can really do.
Well, in so many races we have watched that we felt this is going to be it. This is going to be Arie's opportunity. But as you can see, that first position still eludes Arie Luyendyk.
Well, he's one of the new young guys that are working themselves into enough experience that they're due for a victory.
Another guy to concern ourselves with is Kevin Cogan. Perhaps in his last ride in the machinist car, he started 19th. He's moved up to 11th now. Final drive for the machinist union. At the front, well, it's still Rick Mears, but little Al is right there and knocking on the door. Back at Laguna Seca, Rick Mears is still leading. He is right behind Roberto Guerrero in the Alfa Romeo. And little Al has really been putting the pressure on. Rick Mears riding those brakes hard, locked up the left front as they came through turn 11 and onto the pit straight. Mears uses a little better exit to the corner to pull away from Al Unser Jr. But Jr. has been very sharp through these first turns. Let's watch.
Al Jr. looks like he might be holding back just a little bit. Now, I don't know what their strategy is, but he's not really. When he gets up there and gets a chance, he gets busy trying to set Rick up for the pass. But whenever Rick pulls away, he just kind of, you know, waits, and then we'll see him eat up the ground and get back up to him, and he'll try to pick one of these back markers to use to close the gap and get by.
Let's go to the pits now. Here's Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, you were talking about 1990. Let's give you an artist rendering of what the Alfa Romeo will look like in 1990. The same red livery. They'll have a March chassis and the Italian-made engine. The driver will be Roberto Guerrero, but guess who will be crewing this? It'll be the World Championship team of Pat Patrick and company. They have announced today that they will take over the Alfa Romeo project in 1990 with Guerrero as their driver.
Well, if you think that that car looks a lot like Teo Fabi's current car, you'd be right, because the Porsche chassis, which is a March, was designed for Porsche. But then, when the year is over, the Alfa Romeo March will use a lot of the technology that was developed in the Porsche March this year. And, of course, that opens a lot of speculation with the Patrick Racing Team picking up that car as to other things that may happen. We're watching Arie Luyendyk as he continues his battle with Scott Pruitt. This is a fight for 7th position as Pruitt tries down the inside under braking. That's everyone's favorite corner.
Didn't quite have enough to get inside of him there, and of course when you do that, you lose a little bit of your momentum, and you can see that Arie pulls away from him again. So they have to work his way back up, try to get into position to do that all over again and to get the job done.
And Teo Fabi comes up from 9th place to challenge Pruitt as well. You saw Pruitt move over just a little bit on Teo, back at the front of the field, as little Al still tries to work his way back up and catch Rick Mears once again. You can spend 5 or 6 laps closing in, then make your run, and if you lose the momentum, then suddenly you're way back there.
Yes, that's true. You have the opportunity.
Back to the fight for 7th. Luyendyk, Pruitt, Teo Fabi. So Johnny Rutherford, if the Alfa Romeo situation now is with Patrick Racing, with Roberto Guerrero as the driver, the indication, of course, is that Emerson Fittipaldi will join Penske, which will now be a 3-car team for 1990. And as a 3-car team, it will be Danny Sullivan, Rick Mears, and Emerson Fittipaldi. That leaves Al Unser, the senior, without a ride for the 500 miles. But some people have suggested that maybe Porsche will be his ride.
Well, it could be. You know, they're talking a second car. Here we see Pruitt trying to make that move inside again. Didn't quite get it done. But there is speculation that Al Unser Sr. might get in that car.
All right, they indicated, Porsche did, that they would have 2 cars, at least for Indianapolis, and Al Unser did drive the Porsche the first time it ever appeared as an IndyCar here at this track, so maybe they give it to him. Let's go to the pits now. Here's Gary Gerald.
Well, Paul, we're happy to be standing alongside this man. This is Phil Kruger, IndyCar driver who went through a life-threatening accident in the Michigan 500. We're delighted to see that the recovery is coming along nicely. Phil, nice to see you in the pits. It looks like you're feeling good.
It's really good to be here. I mean, I'm really enjoying this. It's a great sport. So just watching the guys get to do it is good enough right now.
It's just terrific to see you out and about. I hope you enjoy this weekend here at Monterey.
Thank you.
Phil Kruger is back, and we're so happy for him, Paul.
Boy, we are, Gary. One of the nicest men in the sport. Not just a good driver, but a very able mechanic. And if you've got something wrong with your car, he'll come right over and give you a hand. Now we watch as R.A. Lyondike closes up behind John Andretti and moves around. John Andretti to a story, too, because one of the other tales that are being told in the pits would indicate that John Andretti might be a 3rd car owned by Carl Haas. That would make 3 Andrettis on the Haas payroll.
Yes, and of course, here we're back with the lead with Al Unser Jr. He still can't quite get enough mustard to get in position to get Rick Mears, but he keeps closing. We're seeing a little gap there. Mears looks like he might be geared a little bit lower where he needs to be able to pull up some space.
And, of course, the question that you now have to ask, and Jack Arute, in fact, did ask of A.J. Foyt, if Patrick is Alfa Romeo, then where does the Chevrolet they currently have go? Teo Fabi, the Porsche, in and out of the pits. The fight for the lead continues. There will be then theoretically an extra Chevrolet. Now Chevrolet's playing it pretty close to the vest. They haven't said whether or not there really will be an extra Chevy, and if there is, where it will go. Here comes Little Al. He tries down the inside of Rick Mears. Every time he's tried it there, Mears has been able to shut the door on him.
Yes, and he pulls away from him just very drastically up the hill, so he is obviously geared a little lower.
Well, the average speed of the race, 105.3 miles an hour. That is well above Danny Sullivan's race record from last year. Back at Laguna Seca, the fight for the lead continues as now Rick Mears and Little Al have to wind their way through traffic. And Little Al has been able to close down. This is a point in the race in which you don't necessarily drive as fast as you can. You have to really pace yourself into the corner, John.
Yes, you do. You have to judge this traffic because this is where you can make up or lose a lot of ground very quickly. Here we see over Al Unser's shoulders, he goes by, and Rick still is working the traffic just beautifully, able to time it to where he's by, has the advantage, gets a little bit of space.
Well, the game plan would call for a Rick Mears pit stop on the 26th lap, and as he's coming around now, he will be completing lap number 26, and Little Al continues to poke his nose right into the gearbox of that number 4 Pennzoil machine. They come down the hill, heading for turn 10. That right-hand turn, Rick Mears has his option here to turn into the pits or to continue on, and both first and second place head down on the pit road, a very rough area. In fact, Emerson Fittipaldi spun the car in practice here and tagged the wall while he was in a private test session. On the crew cam now, Little Al Unser, right front tire being changed. Michael Andretti picks up the lead out on the circuit as these two are in the pits. And in the fight for the pits, they come out together, and Rick Mears rockets past Little Al and heads back into the action. Boy, look at Rick accelerate. Whoa.
I'll tell you what, that shows the pit crew work. They are the guys, the unsung heroes behind the scenes that get the job done for you. And there they both were equal. They came out together. Rick still had the advantage because he stopped first and came out.
R.A. Lyondike was running in 8th place as he rolls into the pits. Dick Simon Racing goes to work on the Dutch boy Provimi car right now. Car a little slow up on the jacks. R.A. looks around, checks his mirrors, looks at all corners to make sure that everything's moving smoothly and properly. Quick conversation at the front of the car. It's already full of fuel. They work on the left side tires, and there's the leader, Michael Andretti. Of course, he still has not stopped. But Michael has traditionally been able to go a lap or two further than everyone else.
Well, that means that he has the fuel mileage, and that'll be worth watching because this
He does well on this course, too.
Apparently a lot of conversation in the drivers' meeting this morning because of the fuel management that has to be accomplished. They only allow so many gallons of fuel for each race in an IndyCar race, and some of the drivers apparently quite vocal. Look, let's forget that fuel limitation. We've got a pop valve on the engine. That's limiting the engine's power anyway. So let's get rid of the fuel limitation so we can race one another rather than making an economy run.
Well, that's been a bone of contention for ever since they did it to us. And so I think we may see something develop in that area, that they'll open that up, because it is a bit of a problem when you're out there running, going for it, and you run out of fuel before the end of the race.
Well, some of the current fuel regulations harken all the way back to 1973 when we had a gasoline shortage. Now, these cars don't use gasoline, but the IndyCars decided to go along with it, being a good example to the public. Scott Pruitt made his stop. He was in 7th place when he came in, rolls back into the action. And look at this. There goes. Boy, I was going to call that as Rick Mears for a second. It sure scared me. It looked like that combination in front again, didn't it?
It did.
Scott Pruitt on board now with Scotty. He's running back in 7th place now, and Michael Andretti is up in front.
There you can see one of those tear-offs, the edge of it. The wind has blown it out straight on the side. Now we have...
There's the leader, Michael Andretti. Let's go to Jackaroo.
And Paul, Michael Andretti brings his car to a stop in front of the Newman-Haas pit. They're taking on fuel. Michael taking on refreshment. They've completed the work on the exchange of tires. They have dropped the jack. They wiped away some of the radiator, some of the stuff in 13.5 seconds, some of the debris. He is off and away. The thing to remember, gentlemen, is this is exactly the point that they had pointed towards stopping. So it looks like they've cured their fuel woes of yesterday.
So Newman-Haas is right on their game plan. Mario Andretti picked up the lead. Bobby Rahal came out right behind Michael. Rahal in 4th place as he comes out of the pits and back up to speed as he comes around John Jones, the Canadian from Thunder Bay, and picks the pace up again. Here's the new leader of the race, Mario Andretti, with 28 laps complete, and the average speed of this race very, very fast indeed, 105 miles an hour. The race record at 94 miles an hour set by Danny Sullivan just last year. So they're setting a torrid pace.
Yes, and we see some of the strategy. They've gotten Michael in and out of the pits. Now it appears, yes, Mario is going to the pits now. He has a clear shot at it. He has a substantial lead. We'll see if that will work in his favor so he can get back out into the lead.
Well, he's already got 18 seconds in the bank. That was his lead as he came into the pits. Here's Jack.
And Paul, lest we forget, Mario Andretti is winless thus far in this season. He has brought his car to a stop. The team has gone to work. They are changing tires all the way around. They've completed that work. They are now filling the tank up as far as it will go with fuel. A long stop, but they dropped the jack, and he is off and away in 14.6, 1.1 seconds slower than his son.
So Mario Andretti comes flying out of the pits now. And there is Rick Mears as he comes around to complete the lap. So Mario Andretti with one spectacular stop. The Newman-Haas teams really played it very well.
They did for a fact. That's according to game plan, I'm sure, and Mario is back in the lead by just a short bit there. He had a problem with a slower car coming out of the pits, but now we can see he's making the move on his son, trying to get by on the inside. Rick Mears is closed up right in there. It's a real race.
Boy, there's the fight. First, second, and third line all together. Mario, Michael, and Rick Mears as they come off of their stops now. The first stop completed, 29 laps of this 84-lap race complete, and Michael and Mario fighting with one another. They've had a great season together. Look at Rick Mears. Mears cuts it way down on the inside and comes past Michael. Rick is racing today.
Oh, he has it going for him. Look at that. Down through the carousel. Very hard out to the edge of the road. They are really pushing through here, Paul.
Next place to make a pass is under heavy braking after this corner here. This is turn number 10, and going into 11, the left-hander just before the pit straight. You can jump all over the brakes. Let's watch Michael and Rick. Nope, they decide let's all line up. Along the pit straight now, up a little bend at the top of the hill, and then the next opportunity for serious passing as they come down through here. Again, heavy braking. They slow these 750 horsepower machines down, and the situation remains the same. Mario Andretti leads Rick Mears, and Michael Andretti runs in third, followed by Bobby Rahal, Al Unser Jr. We're back at Laguna Seca. Mario Andretti is still out in front. In sections of the course now, you'll see a yellow and red flag being displayed. That's because there was a trail of oil being reported out of the back of Bernard Jourdain's car, making this course a little bit more slippery. It seems to have been in great shape to this point. The fastest lap thus far has been turned by Rick Mears. There's Fabrizio Barbazza, who came off the course and out of the race. He's out of the car. Another team that they wonder what they might be doing next year.
Yes,
Frank Arcero's team.
Arcero's team says they may not be back.
See a yellow flag there, obviously protecting the car at that particular corner station. And out comes the Horton safety team.
Now this, you know, the car is in a precarious position, and obviously after the incident at Toronto, you wouldn't want to see that happen again, so they may go to that full course yellow just to get that car out of the way.
Well, normally a full course yellow would close up the race, but I don't think you can get it any closer. Let's go to the pits and Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, one driver that is out early today is Roberto Guerrero. Roberto, I'm sure you'd like to forget this year, but you've got to be excited about next year, moving over to Team Patrick.
Yeah, for sure, Jack. It sounds really exciting for next year, and I think this year was more of a learning year, and I think they have learned a lot. The Alfa Romeo people have learned a lot, and I think next year we're going to start looking stronger for sure.
You know, for several years now, you've been in the character-building phase of your career. You ran so well, you had your accident, you were really never able to get the right equipment to come back and show that you were ready to win again. How do you think about 1990?
Well, I think what I said before was that I was going with Alfa Romeo as an investment, and I think hopefully next year will start paying off.
Well, one thing I'm sure that he remembers is the man that's going to win the lion's share of the championship purse tomorrow night at the banquet is the fellow that he's replacing over at Team Patrick.
So Roberto Guerrero with a move coming up at the end of the season, a different kind of management and some very excellent. That should team him back with his old friend Morris Nunn as well.
Yes, they had some time together in Formula One racing.
Well, there were 11 cars on the lead lap, but you can see that they've gotten past Arie Luyendyk as the leaders have come through. Luyendyk is the 11th place car. Boissel in the number 30 Domino's Pizza car runs in 10th. And this is Al Unser Jr. battling with Bobby Rahal in a fight for 4th place.
Once again, it's close up, take your chance. If you get an opportunity, then you've got to go for it. But it's very close on this kind of a track.
I think
you have an opportunity.
I think they're worried about the combination of Barbazza's car being in a precarious position and the oiling of the course. They have decided to go to full course yellows, no passing, and out comes the PPG pace car as one car comes off of the course. And it's obliterated by dust. I think I got a quick view of the 22 number of Scott Brayton, the Amway car. They'd reported that he had some smoke displaying at the back of his car a few laps ago, and now he's taking a quick slide off of the course. That may tell you how slick it is.
Yeah, he's off into a sand trap, and it'll take a little pushing and shoving to get that car out of there. And he wants to get moving. You can see him motioning there, and the guy's saying, hey, I can't push it.
All right, so Scott Brayton comes off the course. They go to full course yellow because it's not only Scotty but Barbazza's car that is off, and a very slick course. Now you get great little shots like this, the onboard cameras. We thought we'd take some time and show you what these little onboard cameras are all about.
This track fact is brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil. The big Q stands for quality, always has, always will. Here's Gary Gerald.
One of the greatest innovations in recent years relating to motorsports has to do with onboard cameras. It's something that we now expect and literally demand from race coverage. It gives us the tremendous perspective of being able to see what the driver sees while he challenges on the race course. Amazingly, onboard cameras on Indy cars are just this big. This particular unit on Al Unser Jr.'s car is fitted, bolted to the bodywork, right beside the driver's head. Now, other elements include a computer processor that processes and controls the camera's functions, concealed here under the driver's legs. There's also an antenna and a microwave system mounted on the dash, sends the signal up to a helicopter, which in turn beams it back down to the television compound trucks. There's also a power source, a battery that's concealed in the right side pod. Altogether, you're talking about a total weight of just 7 pounds. In this instance, on this car, there's also a bonus feature. A second camera has been mounted right back here underneath the rear wing. It gives us those terrific shots out the back as the competition chases Al Unser Jr.
Well, we continue under a full course yellow. The racetrack got very slick, apparently accredited to an oil down that came from the Bernard Jourdain car. Then Fabrizio Barbazza, the pilot of this machine, got off the course. They had to send the wrecker out for it, and they went to full course yellow. And this car was the center of the focus. This situation. He was coming up. This shows you how slick the track is. Scotty Brayton came off the corner, got the back end loose in the oil.
Boy, did he stir up a cloud of dust. But that sand trap kept him from getting into the guardrail.
They're a marvelous safety innovation. Something as simple as sand just off the course. It does get the car stopped very quickly. So we continue under a full course yellow. Don't forget, NFL Dream Season, 10 games recreated each week during the regular season. Computer software determining the outcome of each game, including statistics and play-by-play description. The Bears and the Raiders, the 85 Bears and the 76 Raiders at 8:15. So we've got the yellow out. We can breathe easy for a moment, and let's take care of business as Mario Andretti is out in front of Rick Mears. Back at Laguna Seca in the Champion Spark Plug 300, we are at the halfway point now. 42 laps of the 84-lap scheduled distance complete. As we take a look at the race summary, Mario Andretti led 13 of the 40 laps of this race. It's been a great battle at the front of the field. And that average speed, by the way, is well above Danny Sullivan's race record of 94 miles an hour set 1 year ago. We are in the only full course caution that we have had throughout the entire race. Here are the cars out. Rocky Moran had trouble right at the start. Ken Johnson, Guido Dacco, his chances for Rookie of the Year going away. Roberto Guerrero, Carter, John Jones, and Fabrizio Barbazza, all out of the running thus far. Al Unser Jr., you look over his shoulder under the yellow. Let's go to the pits and Gary Gerald.
Paul, just a quick update on Emerson Fittipaldi. He thinks he got a free pit stop with this break. It's going to be a 3 pit stop race now for this team. They had some concerns about fuel as an outgrowth of yesterday's Marlboro Challenge. They're calculating both by the computer and also the manual method, not really playing it conservative, but he had a chance to come in, get a full load of fuel without losing position. Still 6th at the last report we had. They're very happy with that, but it becomes a 3-stop race now for Emerson Fittipaldi. We're waiting to see if any other teams will take similar action.
Well, Gary Gerald, at the start of this race, fuel was a very real concern of all the drivers.
Yes, indeed. It was a major concern, and it still is a concern, although this long yellow, now this is the first time we had a full course yellow, will help alleviate that situation. We have to wait and see how long they're out there. But there were drivers yesterday who ran out of fuel just prior to the checkered flag in the challenge, and just after. Crew chief said this second to Elkhart Lake, as far as fuel is concerned, toughest place on the kart circuit year in and year out.
Well, and we certainly remember what happened there when Michael Andretti ran out of fuel. Here's the number 8 Quaker State Porsche. The Porsche machine with its first win this season. One of the fascinating cars on the IndyCar circuit. Jack Arute took a look.
Porsche's IndyCar effort mates a specifically designed March chassis with their highly touted Porsche IndyCar engine. Now, when you take a look at the chassis itself coming from March, it's flatter and wider across the nose than its Lola counterpart. This allows the air to run up along a very small windscreen and back over the driver's head. Now, when we get back to the Motronics engine management system, which is unique to Porsche's IndyCar effort, you notice it's located here, with wires running back to the engine and monitoring all the functions and dictating just what the fuel mix and spark mixture should be on the engine. These wires here may look superfluous, but they're extremely important for the real-time telemetry which is sent out by this team back to pit road during the course of an event. We've talked a lot about it on ESPN, and some say it gives them just a slight competitive edge over some of their counterparts in IndyCar competition. The horsepower rating for this combination, well, it's pegged right at about 720 horses.
The Porsche IndyCar, Teo Fabi at the wheel, and by the way, he has re-signed with Porsche for another year in the IndyCars, so they've got their team all set for 1990. That's one of the things that this last race of the season does. It's not just what happens on the circuit, it's also a lot of rumors going on. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, there's so many innovations that have been taking place in 1989, and one that we're going to show you now is in helmet technology. Now, in the past, the inside liner of a helmet was made out of this material. It was very resilient in terms of the initial impact, but it would remain dented once it was hit. It provided suitable safety when it was encased in an outside shell of fiberglass. But Simpson safety equipment have now brought out a new space-age material for the inside of a helmet that basically what happens is it's much more resilient and doesn't take a dent. These helmets, they say, will save a driver, give them 30% more protection when they're buckled in a car and have a crash. Let's go back to you.
And they still got to put a shell on it, Jack, though, so you can paint your name on the side. The green flag comes out. Mario Andretti leads the field down. There's Nick Finoro with the green as Rick Mears renews his pursuit of Mario Andretti. Michael Andretti gets bottled up behind Raul Boisel, and Bobby Rahal tries to thread his way down the inside as well.
Boy, that is a close bit of action right there. Anybody could make a slip and really be disastrous.
Boisel in the Domino's car runs in 10th place. Off of the pace of this race. The front of the field is still Mario Andretti, and once again we've got a fight right back at the front. The 5th place car, Al Unser Jr. Bobby Rahal lies just in front of him. That Craco machine, number 18. Again, comparative power. Chevrolet in the first 3 positions, and then Bobby Rahal was Cosworth power. And then a little Al with Chevrolet. Ari Luyendyk dropped a wheel off the track, but as we get to the late stages of this race, I think you're going to see a lot of that, John.
Could be. There you see Bobby Rahal trying to make a move to get by so he can chase those leaders. He desperately wants to get by Raul Boisel and have a chance to keep up with the leaders and run his car as hard as he would like to.
No indication of Boisel's plans for next year in the Indy cars. Currently, the indication is he has no ride for the next season. Rick Mears hard on the brakes. Boy, they're really running in turn 11 hard as Rick Mears tries to hold off the challenge by Michael Andretti. They come up through the bends at the top of the hill. Michael places himself for a pass. Can he get out on the outside and around Rick? Rick comes into the corner just a little bit high and is able to hold Michael off.
Yeah, he thought better of that move, but I tell you, Michael has really shown some a little more savvy. He's getting the hang of it, as it were, and he's going to be very tough next season.
I tell you what, he's matured tremendously this year. I think he's one of the best drivers on the circuit now. Here's Carl Haas as he continues to watch. Makes little notes to himself all the way around the track. Every lap, he just wishes that car around the circuit.
Yeah, we ought to nickname him Mumbles. He's sitting up there mumbling, I'll bet.
So Carl Haas with his cars running in 1st and 3rd as they straddle the Penske car of Rick Mears. Rick started on the pole. There's Roger Penske, who keeps track of Rick Mears' car on the track. Those two men have a very special relationship, and of course Rick Mears will be with Penske probably just as long as he wants because they love racing together. Michael Andretti, they come down the hill. Michael now placing himself in position once again to take a look at the braking as Rick comes to the inside just a little bit, and that frustrates Michael's attempt.
It really does. That area is the prime place. We've seen more passing there than anywhere, but that's the place you've got to be just right, and he hasn't been able to get just right yet on Rick Mears.
Well, there's the savvy driver, too, though. Rick Mears trying to get in a position to pass Mario Andretti, while at the same time keeping mind of what's going on behind him and placing the car in a position that makes it a little more difficult for Michael to get around. Let's go to the pits again. Here's Jack.
Paul, you know the problems that Mario Andretti has had all year. Winless thus far. The team has been disconsolate about it. Well, earlier today, they grabbed a Grateful Dead sticker and they plastered it on the car, said we might as well be deadheads. Maybe it will change our luck. If you're a superstitious type, maybe they'll rock and roll their way to victory lane today.
They seem like they're doing it now, as Mario Andretti, for the most part, seems unchallenged by Rick. Rick really has his hands full trying to keep Michael back. Last time that Mario Andretti went winless in a season was back in 1982. Will he go winless this year? Perhaps not. Michael Andretti teaming for the first time with his father. We ask him, is the season working out the way you wanted?
It's been great for me. You know, I think to me it's the best team that I've ever been with. I think the group of guys that were put together in a short period of time are the best in my book, and you know, I'm just very happy with the whole association. I loved working with Dad. You know, it's just unfortunate that he didn't have a better year, you know, than he did. But he, you know, he's had those before. It's just you know, racing. Other than that, it's been a good year. It's been a frustrating year, but at least we've been competitive.
And there goes Rick Mears Mears, who is able to, under braking, suddenly move up and get around Mario. So Mears back into the lead of this race. Rick Mears takes over the lead. Mario Andretti drops back to second. John Jones' car has been sitting off the course for some time. He's out of the race. But Rick Mears back in the lead again.
He made a move there in place. So I wonder if Mario might have. It's hard for me to believe that Mario would just say, okay, Rick, you take the lead. There we see Roger Penske talking and obviously very pleased with that move. But Mario Andretti has a great deal of experience, and so he may be just pacing himself a little bit.
So the lead changes once again, and it goes back to Rick Mears, the pole sitter, who set a track record qualifying for the pole here and is running a race record right now. Back at Laguna Seca just moments ago, Teo Fabi was on the course in pursuit, running in 8th place, when all of a sudden he lost control. Watch that green and white car coming off of the corner, and he caught the wall on the right side real hard. The wing came off of the car, severe damage to the back end, and you can see Teo is slumped over in the cockpit. The corner workers, the course marshals, ever present right there, right on top of the car. Here comes the Horton safety team, a fireman, extrication expert, and a doctor on that car as Teo Fabi, that's one of the doctors with the blue stripes on his arm, right there at the car.
Boy, he took a shot, Paul. When you back one in like that, your tendency is to want to hump up, to get pulled down, to go to the basement, and when it hits the wall, there's no way you can stay in that position, and it just slams your head back into the back of the headrest. And he got his bell rung pretty good. Let's hope it's not real serious.
Horton safety team, they call for a cervical collar to put around his neck. Here it is in slow motion, Johnny.
Yeah, it looks like he just got to the inside, dropped the left rear wheel off into the dirt, which turned him loose. The car came around, you see it. It's going backwards there, slams into the wall very hard, taking the rear wing off, knocking the rear wheels askew, and he slides back out on the track to a stop. Quite a shot.
He was tucked up right behind Fittipaldi. You think he lost aerodynamics?
I don't think so. They're not fast enough there to really, I would think, to really have a problem. I think he just was pushing so hard through there that when he got that wheel off, there was no traction, and so the car let go and went around.
They work with Teo Fabi. Not a routine situation at this point. Under full course yellow once again. They have taken Teo's helmet off. Rick Mears is out in front of the field. Mario Andretti is in second. Michael is third. And this car, Al Unser Jr., rides in 4th place. This should create an excellent opportunity for pit stops. This yellow comes at a very opportune time, maybe just a little too early. Rick Mears, the leader, is already in. Second and third, Michael and Mario Andretti come in. Mario running in second, Rick Mears running in third. So the top of the order all in the pits right now. Let's go to Jackaroo.
And Michael Andretti is taking some directions from his crew chief as he watched the leader go by. Rick Mears has completed his work. He is a little cockeyed coming into this pit stall. They're going to have to get his wheels straightened away. He's taking on fuel. They say this should be their final stop of the day. He hits a tire. One of the tires had gone off, and he bumps his way out, but he's back out on the track.
So Michael Andretti, Rick Mears, Mario Andretti make stops. Al Unser Jr. picks up the lead, but we are under a full course caution once again because of the accident involving Teo Fabi. Here's Gary Gerald.
Paul, we're just standing down here amidst a very concerned crew. They want information. Of course, they have virtually nothing at this standpoint. Derek Walker is here, and I know that this is a most disappointing way to have your season come to an end, and I know you're concerned for your driver.
Sure we are. We're just anxious to hear how he is.
Well, we will try to relay any information that we hear. I know that they know virtually nothing more. And, Paul, you probably have more information because you, of course, have had the video and you've seen what's happened. We'll throw it right back to you.
Well, Gary, we can tell you so you can relay to Derek that the both Horton safety team vehicles are right there. You can't ask for a better rescue effort. Teo Fabi is still in the car, and they continue to work with him while the PPG pace car brings the field around with Al Unser Jr. as the leader under yellow. Michael Andretti came back into the pits. Let's go to Jackaroo.
And Paul, Michael Andretti had an unscheduled stop due to the fact that he was not on pit road in the proper fashion to have the fuel hose connected. During that last stop, we mentioned that he was crossways in his pit stall. But what he did is he took on tires but no fuel. He had to come back in to take fuel. But here's the clincher. The drop of the green flag, he's going to receive a stop-and-go penalty for running into the hose of his father, Mario, in that initial stop.
Now, that might be good luck for him, Jack. He spun around in the pits at the Michigan 500, got a penalty, and still won the thing.
Good point. One thing else to remember, they are very, very happy with their fuel consumption thus far. In fact, they're one of the few drivers that feel that they have cured the ills of the Marlboro Challenge of one day ago.
34 laps to go. Jack Arute, do you think that the teams that you're watching are capable of going to the finish?
Absolutely. I think it will be close, but I think these caution periods allow them a chance to be able to go a little bit further under green flag conditions. But only time will tell. You know this is one of the tough racetracks on fuel.
All right, they have Teo Fabi out of the car now. He is in the ambulance and will be transported back to the Horton Medical Facility, a state-of-the-art facility here at the track. It's actually a large bus, and it's made up as good as any emergency room in any hospital.
Oh, it really is, and it's a great comfort to us drivers to know that we have a facility like that on the grounds. And of course, I've seen a lot of oil cleanup going on up and down the front straightaway and some parts, and I've seen cars slip even though they're going slow under the yellow out there. It appears that there's a lot of oil or something on the course that's very slippery.
Well, as we suggested, the edge of this race course, Johnny, is sand, and if they run wheels off, they spray the sand up onto the course, and that added oil makes it very slick. The PPG pace car out in front of Al Unser Jr. Here was the pit stop when the leaders all came in together. Mario Andretti, Michael Andretti, we watch for the violation. For running over the hose entering the pits. John, did you notice it?
I didn't see that. In fact, unless it was just coiled out the side of the car. Here we see Mario trying to get out. It's very tight, and you have to really play it cozy in there. Here we see Michael getting ready to go. He's down. His car comes out. He hits the tire. Bumps.
The official indication was that he got a hose coming into the pits. I didn't see it in that replay, but of course the officials are right there on top of it. They can see things that we can't.
Yeah.
There's literally cart officials all up and down the pits, and perhaps even more important, out on the pit wall to the outside. So they're right on top of the situation, just like a football referee or a baseball umpire. We'll take a look one more time and see if we can see. You have to watch going into the pits, the 6 car of Michael Andretti. As he comes in, wheels the car into the left. If he caught Mario's air hose, he would have caught it with the left side.
We can see the red hose laying right there out. He must have just clipped that.
I don't know if he ran over it or nicked it, but you can see also how tight the pits are here at Laguna Seca. Very short pit straight, and so it is very tight here. Still under the caution. Take a look at next year's schedule as we wait for word on Teo Fabi's condition. We don't want to speculate. Nice season lined up with a couple of new venues. One at Cleveland, or one at Denver, and one at Vancouver. There's the first part of the season. There you see on the 26th of August at Denver. And the following date, September 2nd, on Vancouver. So a nice full schedule for the IndyCars next year. The battered Porsche that belonged to Teo Fabi, the Quaker State machine, on the hook. That blue material is to keep the car from leaking any further oil.
Yeah, they call that a diaper. They just put it under the car and keep any drippings from coming off onto the track.
So while they get his car cleared off the course and we wait for word of Teo Fabi, we'll take a break. We're back at Laguna Seca. Let's go to the pit area. Gary Gerald.
All right. Dr. Jay Phelan has just stepped out of an ambulance where Teo Fabi has been brought into the Horton Safety Unit. Dr. Phelan, can you tell he is conscious?
Teo's conscious right now. He was unconscious at the scene, and for that reason, we're going to give him a very good looking over here and then transport him to the community hospital for some x-rays.
All right, we appreciate that report. I know you're in a hurry to get back on the track.
Thank you, Gary.
Jay is on his way back out of the track. They at this moment, Paul, transporting Teo into the Horton Safety Unit. And of course, as you're well aware, and people who follow this sport are well aware, I don't think you'll find any better on-site medical facilities than are provided by this Horton Safety team. Certainly encouraging news initially here regarding Teo Fabi. Paul?
And we're going going to continue to wait and be very cautious until we hear further reports from the Horton safety team. Emerson Fittipaldi under the yellow was in second place, made his stop, came back into the action, lined up in 8th position, owing to the fact that the field came by as he made the stop. Allenser Jr. in front of the field. Once again, the Gallus team playing it real cozy on fuel and has not yet stopped. I'm sure they'll do it as soon as they know that the race is going back to green. The PPG pace car winding its way around the circuit in front of Allenser Jr.
You see Allenser weaving back and forth there. He's cleaning his tires and trying to keep a little temperature into them. That must be a critical factor there. When they drop the green again, the tires are a little cold because they haven't been up to speed, and they have to be cautious. So he wants to make sure he's got a little temperature and can stand on it.
Kevin Cogan, by the way, who started well back in the field, is now running in second place. So Kevin Cogan, in what is scheduled to be his last ride of the season, you can see him right there. He's in really great position. He started back in the 10th row. There's Kevin Cogan, who helped us at the Nazareth race. He had a severely sprained wrist. He sprained at work in his house. Johnny, you tried to drive the car.
I got in the car, and it wasn't doing badly, but on that morning practice, we had a little come together with Roberto Guerrero and put me in the wall, and it was unfortunate. I was looking forward to the ride.
All right, as they continue to work their way around, there's handsome Kevin Cogan, Californian, real estate dealer when he's not working in the IndyCars. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Paul, right now, all the top teams are doing fuel calculations. And this team, Team Gallus, the Team Valvoline people, have determined they need about 2 more laps before they can go the distance and not be able to stop one more time. They want to play it a little conservative. They hope this caution goes about maybe 2, maybe 3 more laps. He'll duck in, take on fuel, and he'll be done.
All right, so some strategy, the tactics being played out now by the Gallus team as we take the look back. From Allenser Jr. Danny Sullivan lined in there, of course, owing to his brake problems and a 6-minute pit stop. He's not on the leader's pace. This is the leader of the race. 55 laps going to the record book. 84 laps, the scheduled distance here at Laguna Seca. Our second full course caution of the day. This owing to the accident involving Teo Fabi.
Still saw just a little bit of oil smoke as Al kind of got in the throttle there.
Well, 2 races left in the F1 season. Alain Prost needs 1 win to clinch the championship. But Senna's going to try and stop him. The Grand Prix of Japan, Sunday, midnight, Eastern Time, here on ESPN. Good fight there going in the World Championship as well. Well, the indications are that most of the cars should not have to stop again. At least that's what they're putting out for public consumption. The True Sports team, the Budweiser number 3 of Scott Pruitt, they say they're going to go to the end of the race right now. And Al Unser Jr.'s team watching very carefully the fuel mileage on this car. The average speed of the race is now 90 miles an hour. That's 4 miles an hour below Danny Sullivan of 94 miles an hour set last year as the race record. But now the pace begins to pick up as we should be going green once again. You see the lineup, the standings as they will come back to the green flag. The PPG pace car accelerates just a little bit faster. The yellow lights are out, telling the drivers behind that they will pull off the course and give the racetrack to the leader. That man will be Al Unser Jr. in that number 2 Valvoline machine as they come down through the 11th and final turn. And we should see a green flag in the hands of Nick Finoro as they come off. You're on board with the leader, Al Unser Jr. He looks ahead just under that bridge to see the green flag come out. There it is. And we're back racing once again. Al Unser Jr. has plenty of pad. Rick Mears jumps around Kevin Cogan, picks up second place, and now tries to pursue Al Unser Jr. That's Mears' teammate, Danny Sullivan, just ahead. He is not in this order. The Pennzoil car runs in second place. Kevin Cogan runs down in third. Mario Andretti has dropped back to fourth. Michael Andretti is running in fifth.
This is the opportunity where guys get bunched up on these full course yellows, Paul. And then when they take off, we can see who the runners are, because there's a little gap that develops between the second group of cars and the first group. And of course, here's Arie Luyendyk up in there, right in with them.
Mario Andretti comes past Kevin Cogan, picks up third place. Arie Luyendyk is one of the traffic cars, not in this particular fight, but Mario picks up the position and moves up into third place. Ari Leyendyk is actually running off of the pace of the leaders back in ninth place, but he is staying right with Mario and trying to put in the best possible finish he can. You're on board with Leyendyk now as he comes screaming down the hill. Through the corkscrew, out from under the bridge, heading for turn 10, brings her way out to the outside. A very fast corner here as he snaps her down a gear. Now they look ahead to bring her down several gears and get on the brakes as they come onto the pit straight.
Great shot.
Listen to Ari as he accelerates up the hill now. And there's the stop-and-go penalty for Michael Andretti. Here's Gary.
Well, they went for a splash of fuel. I don't know if they even got a splash. It was stop, it was go. He's gone.
So Michael Andretti rolls back into the fight. But with that stop, he drops down to 8th place. Still, it's not that far back. He comes out just 17 seconds behind the leader, Al Unser Jr., though it cost him dearly in positions. The order now, Al Unser Jr., 2 seconds out in front of Rick Mears, followed by Mario Andretti, then Kevin Kogan, then Scott Pruitt. Bobby Rahal is 6th. Emerson Fittipaldi is 7th. Michael Andretti back in 8th now, and Ari Leyendyk running 9th. Raul Boisel is 10th. Dominic Dobson with a good run is in 11th place. And a car slowing on the course, the 9 car of Didier Taze. That's the STP Tune-Up Masters machine. By the way, STP going to move their sponsorship over to the Craco machine of Bobby Rahal for next year. The Taze, Vince Granatelli, gives this young driver a nice ride on the road courses, and Taze tries to make the best of it. Back at the front of the field, the number 2 car, Al Unser Jr.
Al is making a little daylight between himself and the rest of the field.
So Al Unser Jr., who won the first race of the season and then was running so very, very close to a victory at the Indianapolis 500. With just 4 laps to go, suddenly he taps with Emerson Fittipaldi and into the wall. How did it affect his year?
It's taken an awful long time to get over Indianapolis, and I can say that I'm 80% over it right now. I don't think I'll be 100% over it until the green flag falls again at the Indy 500. And so from there on, I really believe the Indy 500 really affected my whole race team. And we didn't do very well at Milwaukee and Portland and the rest of the races. They just kind of seemed to come and go.
He had such a good chance at Toronto. The crew ran him out of fuel there. But then in the Marlboro Challenge, he really showed his stuff. So perhaps Al Unser Jr. is back on the winning ways. He says, well, maybe I got to win Indy before I get over it totally. I got a feeling this weekend's going to help.
It will help quite a bit, Paul, I'm sure. If he puts it together today, he'll have a big payday this weekend.
Well, you can see that Danny Sullivan, with his brakes fixed, is able to run on the leader's pace. He stayed right with Al Unser Jr. for the last several laps. Rick Mears has turned the best lap of the race so far at 107.1 miles an hour. And there is Scott Pruitt trying to come up and around the outside of Bobby Rahal in a fight for 5th place. Good fight here as Pruitt begins to worry Rahal. 2 road racing experts. Pruitt with Trans Am and IMSA championships in his pocket, his first full years in the Indy cars, and there he is, up battling with one of the best the series has to offer.
Yes, and this group right here are drivers that haven't really had good luck other than Rahal. You know, Pruitt's a rookie, getting his chance to go with a proper team this year and doing quite well. I think Scott has a brilliant future at this if he doesn't take off and go to Formula One.
Yeah, we can't say enough for Kevin Kogan either. There's Pruitt, his 1989 stats. Kevin Kogan is hanging right in there. He's still in 4th place. Mario Andretti was able to get around him. That wasn't really a big surprise, but there's that number 11 machinist car, and he's staying right in the fight as Rahal comes in to try and challenge Kogan now. The fight here is for 4th, but Kogan's holding his own.
Yes, he is, and there he's able to hold that spacing so he can get down into that turn 11, not have a chance to be passed.
Boy, I hope some sponsor and team owner is watching this fight, because Kogan is a man who needs a ride for next year. He's certainly showing that he is really capable of giving a car a good ride. Kogan still with Bobby Rahal right behind the fight for 4th place. This is Kevin's best effort since last year's Long Beach Grand Prix when he finished in 3rd place. So Kevin Kogan, Bobby Rahal, Scott Pruitt, and Emerson Fittipaldi lined up in a battle for 4th place. Al Unser Jr. is still out in front. We're back at Laguna Seca, the Champion Spark Plug 300. Al Unser Jr. is out in front of the field. He climbs the top of the hill. The corkscrew lies just ahead, and he is due for a pit stop. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, remember, he is the only one of the leaders that did not elect to come onto pit road during the caution period. The crew, Owen Snyder and the rest of Team Gallus, are waiting patiently. They've elected to bring him in under green flag conditions. They hope that maybe the pad that he has in his lead may be sufficient for him to come in, take on the needed splash of fuel, not change tires unless they absolutely have to, and then get back out in the race. The crew is going over the wall, Paul. We are just moments away.
Well, he just went past with 1 lap to go to his pit stop. There was an incident just a second ago. This is Bobby Rahal and Kevin Kogan as they were battling for 4th place. And they touched. Bobby Rahal got back on the left rear of Kevin Kogan's car. Scott Pruitt and Fittipaldi came flying in. Remember that confrontation between Rahal and Teo in the Marlboro Challenge. And just moments ago, back on board with the leader, Al Unser Jr. now. Lap 62 complete, 84 laps of scheduled distance. And Little Al came past the line with a 6-second lead over Rick Mears. Not nearly enough to hold Mears off when Little Al makes his stop here.
No, it's not. And, of course, Al now has to contend with making that pit stop, and it's going to cost him precious, precious time.
And the tactics being paid out by the Penske team as Little Al comes down toward turn 11. You're on board once again, the Valvoline car.
He's going in.
And there he goes for the pits. Down, and then he's really got to get on the brakes on this very rough road, and turns down and heads toward Jack Arute, who is there to call the stop.
Paul, as we've said so many times, the narrow confines of pit road here, especially on Laguna Seca's road course, they have gone to work. They are trying to put the fuel in. They are waiting for the signal on the vent hose that the tank is full. So far, they have not been able to see it. They elect to go without because they think they have emptied the tank, but it is, of course, not a full load, but enough, they hope, to go the distance.
15 seconds in and out for Al Unser Jr. Now we continue to wait for word on Teo Fabi. And Gary Gerald just may have it, Gary.
Yes, indeed, Paul. We're in a pit adjacent to Little Al Unser, now vacated, of course, following the injury, but encouraging news for Teo. They are now transporting him to Monterey Peninsula Community Hospital. It is reported from the Horton Safety Unit, a slight concussion. He is conscious. They'll take him in for further observation. That follows up that report from Dr. Phelan. He is in stable condition, certainly encouraging news, Paul.
Well, we're glad to hear that. Of course, we hate it when any driver is involved. There's a shot of Teo Fabi. Very likable young Italian. And the number 4 yellow Pennzoil car, well, that belongs to Rick Mears, and he is the leader of this race once again, picking up the lead during that pit stop from Al Unser Jr. Mario Andretti was also able to come around Little Al while he was in the pits. So Mario is now running in 2nd place. Little Al is 3rd. And Kevin Kogan is still holding on with his fingertips to 4th place.
That's quite a deal. And Rick Mears has a substantial lead now, so hopefully he'll be able to just kind of cruise and make everything work right and not have to take any chances, except maybe with back markers to get by. But he is driving a superb race.
64 laps complete. This is the rundown through the field at the conclusion of 60 laps of racing. Of course, Rick Mears is back in front of this run. He started on the pole with record time and speed. With the 2 full course cautions, we've dropped off of the race record. Danny Sullivan set the record at 94.09 miles an hour last year. And right now, the average speed of the race is at 91.04. But with the pace that Rick Mears is setting, he just may be able to bring that record back into the Penske stable, but with the name Rick Mears on it. His fastest lap thus far has been 107.2 miles an hour. This is the battle that is being contested between the 4th place car of Kevin Kogan, Bobby Rahal, and Scott Pruitt. Did I see a spray at the back of Scotty's car there for a second?
It looked like it. It's about that time during the race when things start happening to cars. They've been pushed pretty hard to this point, so we could see about anything from now on.
Well, Kevin Kogan, if he stays where he is, can make a substantial jump in the standings, moving up from 17th to 12th in PPG points. That is, if he can hold on to 4th place. Bobby Rahal and Scott Pruitt are both right there trying to argue that situation. Kevin Kogan with a nice ride.
Kevin's doing a good job. His car looks good. It's not getting fishy with him or anything. It's just holding a good steady line, and he's driving it very hard.
Randy Kanapensky of the Machinist team allowed earlier in the year that they would not be back to race again. Maybe Kevin is going to give them some reasons to stick in the Indy cars and do some racing.
Well, we certainly hope so.
Chris Mears, Rick's wife, works on the scoring stand, keeping track of her husband's laps. Listens in on the radio conversation, and there's Randy Lewis in the Toshiba car, number 28, as he pulls off of the course. Didn't look like any problem. It looks like he just shut it down and pulled it off, Johnny.
It appears that way. There's no smoke or anything coming out. He had some sort of a problem, and just there's a little wisp of smoke, but that's from the turbo probably spinning down. He's pulled off, and whether he's in a precarious position, that remains to be seen.
Well, Randy's quite a racing entrepreneur. He's got a couple of thousand of his supporters here at the track. He buys them all lunch, puts up a tent for them. They have a great time. He really knows how to promote the sport. A lot of contacts in the computer world over in Silicon Valley. As the fight continues, Kevin Kogan, Bobby Rahal, Scott Pruitt, Emerson Fittipaldi all lined up together. 4th through 7th. True Sports entry, that Budweiser number 3. Pruitt's been pretty bright this year. He's taking it nice and easy, working his way up. No big mistakes. His first full year in the Indy cars.
He's had a good learning curve.
It's a tough maneuver, too, coming out of sedans, which is really where his expertise was before. But, of course, he goes back in his history to being a go-kart racer, and that really helps you when you come into a single-seat car like this.
Yeah, it really does, because it gives you the feeling of open wheel racing, and that's quite a bit different than sedan racing.
So Bobby Rahal still trying to hold off Scott Pruitt, and Emerson Fittipaldi with the championship already wrapped up, running back in 7th place. The leader of the race, Rick Mears. Well, he may just have a win for this man today. Roger Penske continues to watch, talks to Rick almost all the way around the circuit. I got to listen to Rick at the Pocono race. He talks all the way around. We ask him, what are his goals for 1990?
No specifics. I think if we can do everything that we want to do or should do, it'll all fall in place. We just want to go out and try to win all the races we can, and if we win Indy, it's going to be great. If we win the championship, it'd be great, and that's what we're going to try to do.
Yeah, but Rick just plays it race to race. And right now he's playing it very cool. Out in front by 10 seconds over the 2nd place car of Mario Andretti. Let's go to the pits and Gary Gerald.
Paul, very quickly, we've talked about brakes off and on all weekend and the problems they can cause. Here's a brake assembly in the Rick Mears pit that we've had put together. You can see the large disc. Here are the calipers. Inside the calipers, they hold the pads. What happens, this is spinning, of course. You apply pressure to the brake. It squeezes the pads down, creates tremendous friction on this disc. Temperatures at Laguna Seca are not uncommon, of 1,300 degrees Fahrenheit. How do the crews know? They have color heat-sensitive paint that they put on here. When they pull a tire off, they look and see if the color-coded paint has turned white. If it has, it means that it's exceeded that temperature. Sometimes you see 12 and 1,300 degree readings here. And of course, what happens when your brakes get so hot? They start to fade. You can't attack the course. You can't quite be as aggressive as you would hope to be. It could cost you a chance to win a race. That's what drivers contend with here at the 2.2 Laguna Seca course.
Of course, they all use that dual disc, so they get ventilation in between the disc, and then all those holes, Johnny, are drilled through to try and ventilate them even further to try and cool them down. Bobby Rahal, Scott Pruitt right behind. You're on board with Pruitt right now. Can he hold Rahal off? Tough place to pass there, but can he get him under braking coming in here? Rahal expects him to the outside, moves down to the inside, holds the position. Scott Pruitt with Judd power on his machine. That's a Cosworth. And the Craco car of Bobby Rahal. Nice fight going here.
Yeah, Pruitt has done extremely well. We've talked about him all day, and the fact that he was able to get into a position in the point standings to be invited to the challenge. And that's what, he gets a little more experience. Did well there. He's a comer. He's doing well.
John, with all these other guys making plans for 1990, what are your plans?
Well, I'm hoping to get back in the cockpit full time. We're working very hard getting sponsorships together and hopefully have things. There's a whole lot to do, Paul, when you start putting together a new team, and we're working real hard on it right now.
Well, I greet that with mixed emotion. On one hand, I'd love to see you back at an IndyCar with a couple more Indy 500 wins and a championship or two. I'm going to miss you if you do that and get out of the booth. Rick Mears is still out in front. Mario Andretti with a great drive is now in second. Of his position here at Laguna Seca, and into the pits, Kevin Kogan with a spectacular run makes a stop late in the race at lap number 70 with just 14 laps to go. That brings him out of the order and drops him back to 8th place, now back to 9th, 10th, 11th as Boiselle comes past. So Kevin Kogan, who was up at the front of the order, owing to some strategy with his pit stops, now makes his stop and comes up to speed. Raul Boiselle, now the 10th place car, and Rick Mears is still the leader of the race, being chased by Mario Andretti. Mario is just 9 seconds back from Rick Mears. There's Raul Boiselle, no indication of his plans for the next year. As a matter of fact, I talked to Doug Shearson, his car owner, and Shearson doesn't seem to be really sure of what he's going to do when they go to the 1990 season. So it's going to be an interesting winter. Paul Newman out here in California keeps track of his drivers. Mario Andretti, Michael Andretti, Mario in second. Michael is back in 7th place. There's the number 5 car of Mario, 9 seconds back behind Rick Mears, trying to chase him down. And fuel, I think, Johnny, will become the question. These guys are going to be running real light at the finish.
Yes, I would say so, Paul. It's a matter of which one made the right decision. And if they did all the work overnight on Mario and Michael's cars, and they are getting good mileage, could be that Mario's in the catbird seat.
Continuing to look at this fight, it's been going on all day. Now missing Kevin Kogan with his pit stop. Bobby Rahal runs in 4th. Scott Pruitt, Emerson Fittipaldi right there as well.
Well, that's a real dogfight. You know, I don't know why Emerson is not pulling up. Obviously, he's just waiting for the right moment. But these guys are racing, and it's an opportunity to get.
Boy, look at Rahal. Rahal got the back end off a little bit, and then totally off as they came up the hill.
Oh, he lost 2 spots very quickly there, just dropping a wheel off of the road.
Look how fast he gets back up to pace, though. Bobby Rahal down through the corkscrew. Fittipaldi got past. Pruitt passed. And so that fight broken up by just the slightest mistake. That was probably about a 3-inch mistake.
Oh, it
cost 2 positions.
It doesn't take much, Paul. I mean, when you're going this fast, this course is so demanding that you make one little error, and if somebody's there, bang, they've got you.
Race like this, that small an error can mean an awful lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
So Emerson Fittipaldi now trying to chase Scott Pruitt down. Pruitt and Fittipaldi fought for the lead in Detroit as we go back and take a look at the situation that put Rahal back 2 spots. He was actually out in front of these 2 cars. Must be getting slick. You see how Fittipaldi came out there. He got high on the entry to the turn, and that kind of mistake compounds itself coming out of the turn.
Well, he was left out in the grade, which is very dirty and slippery out there, and he just slid off and had to get on the brakes to really slow down to get back under control, which is tough in that sand, and the other 2 cars just slipped by.
And when you're back in 2nd place, they got a jack-o'-lantern up on the Penske pits as Chris keeps talking to the man at the wall with the board so he can flash the proper times to Rick. They always back up the radio communication with the pit board. When you're in a position like Fittipaldi was there, you got to keep your foot off the brakes. You got to stay right on the throttle and get past.
Yes. Best thing you can do is just drive right on by.
All right, let's go to the pits. Here's Jack Arute again.
Paul, you're looking at the tank of Michael Andretti. Now, when that stop and go, they were able to take on 4 gallons of fuel, so they feel that they can go the distance. His father, Mario, however, is 4 gallons lighter than his son. It's a little bit questionable whether he'll be able to go the distance. Now, let's add to this whole drama the fact that the ceiling here is beginning to close in, and the Andretti team has brought out rain tires in case the heavens open up and they've got to go to them for the last 3 or 4 laps.
Well, you talk about being prepared. When you look over this circuit, indeed, there is a little cloud layer that comes in from the Pacific Ocean. Gary Gerald, who's a weather expert, can tell you all about this stuff. He's got names for everything. But when you look off to the east, bright blue skies, but still, as we've seen here before, you can get just a little shower that, in fact, only affects sometimes part of the course. And if that's true, then you stay on the dry tires. But if it's raining everywhere, then you'd go to the wet. Roger Penske consulting, taking a look up at the monitor, trying to decide what the intervals are and what his plan will be for Rick Mears. I wonder if they're talking about a stop for Rick's. You see the distance. Rick Mears comes through, and 8 seconds back is Mario Andretti. Now the Mears team, Johnny, has the advantage of telemetry from the car.
Yes, but Mario has the experience, and you know, he's pushing very hard. He's closed up a second, so it will, you know, we'll have to keep a close watch here and see if the interval does close down and Mario is gaining.
Well, if we go back and compare these two teams with 10 laps to go, there's the blue sky. Lies off to the east as he heads into the corkscrew and comes down the hill and picks that right front off the ground. Boy, he's cornering great.
That is so much fun to go through there, Paul. I'm telling you, that is probably the most fun place on any racetrack anywhere.
Rick Mears out in front. Blue sky to the east, some clouds, almost splits right over the top of this track here. Not so sure from my vantage points that it's the same factor that they feel it is in the pits. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Well, Paul, those huddles continue down here in the Penske pit. Peter Gibbons, Roger Penske, all the crew checking. They have that computer equipment, of course, we've talked about in the past with the telemetry, and we understand that about 3 laps ago they asked Rick to be a little bit more conservative, to ease back just a bit to make sure they could go the distance. We've seen heads nodding down here in agreement. Apparently it is paying off. They're getting the mileage they want. They think they can make it to the checkered flag.
Well, Rick Mears is cornering that car for all he's worth. This was look at that, as he comes down the hill and unloads the car off to the left, picks that right front off. Boy, he's driving that thing.
He really is.
And you know he's loving every minute of it.
Yes, yes. And of course, I think Rick's back, road racing wise. Everybody said, well, he's an oval specialist. I've not bought that. He's a racer.
He's a race driver in every sense of the word. Injury only slowed him down for a bit. The question still is one of fuel. In the Champions Spark Plug 300, Rick Mears is the leader, being chased by Mario. We'll be back. Back at Laguna Seca, you see Mario Andretti. He is chasing this man, Rick Mears, and he is 7 seconds back. And with the orders going out from the Penske team for Rick to be conservative in his driving and short shift the car, Mario Andretti is now closing in. And Rick Mears' wife, Chris, begins to reflect some of the tension that surely they feel in the pits. Perhaps the only man not feeling the tension is the driver of the number 4 Pennzoil car. He loves to go fast. He's probably really liking this run.
Oh, yes, and to be in the lead, you know, that means a great deal. And he's got the power, he's got the car handling. He's on top of it all right now.
He comes around the Texaco Havoline machine of Dominic Dobson. Roger Penske, when his car isn't in the lead, is a great race fan, but he's extra good at it when Rick's out in front.
Oh, yes.
Down the hill once again, working lap number 78. And Mario Andretti comes out from under the bridge trying to close in on Rick Mears. Now, the last time that the Newman-Haas team, there's Paul Newman, and the Penske team went head-to-head was at Elkhart. The battle there was fuel. Look at Paul cheer him on. Come on, Mario. The last time, though, they went head-to-head, they went to the last lap with Michael Andretti out in front and Penske driver Danny Sullivan chasing. At that time, Michael ran out with a little over a mile to go. So the scenario is set up once again, but this time Penske driver Mears is in front and Mario Andretti is in second place. Carl Haas will fight right through it.
He's turned his cigar around. He started on the other end.
Long, hard race for Carl. He's just glad that he can get to the other half of the cigar.
You bet. He usually stops about halfway.
So at the top of the order, it's still Rick and Mario. Al Unser Jr. rides with Scott Pruitt just a little behind him in the fight for third place. And you can see Emerson Fittipaldi continues to wait and watch. I wonder if the Patrick team is playing the fuel game as well, keeping Emo slowed down through the entire run.
Well, that may well be. You know, he hasn't, he caught this group and was able to challenge for a while, and then it looked like he had to hold back. So maybe they're just playing for the end of the race.
Working lap number 79 now, so if there is a scenario there, it should begin to play itself out very quickly. Al Unser Jr. with a win in the Marlboro Challenge yesterday. Now running in third place, you look back at Scott Pruitt just behind. Little Al was showing some vapor at the back of the car at the start of this race. We speculated it might be a problem, but it hasn't manifest on the pit straight. as they come up. Traffic in front, and they neatly come around to the inside as Pruitt is able to close in just a little bit.
Yeah, he's moving right in there, and of course this rearward shot, that's a fantastic shot. You can see him kind of rubber band. He goes back and then he gets through the gears and accelerates up to him, and then he shifts gears, and they're sitting there back and forth. He's waiting to get in that right position so he can make it to go. With 5 laps to go, he's going to have to do it pretty quick.
And that kind of view can be deceptive. You see how Scotty suddenly closed in. That's under braking going into the corner. The interval should go back to the way it was as they come off the corner. You're really only making up ground in a few feet, and more often than not just inches, despite the speed you're traveling.
Yeah, that's true, and it's a game of patience. You have to be very patient to make the right moves. Look at that. Right down through the carousel.
My stomach let go and I wasn't in the car. These Indy cars, 161 cubic inches, turbocharged, developing over 750 horsepower, some incredible acceleration, including lateral G's that'll go up in increments to 5 G's lateral under cornering.
It's a tremendous ride, Paul.
Powerful, powerful machines. The last race of the season. The All-Star run yesterday, it was won by that number 2 car, Al Unser Jr. Rick Mears started this race on the pole in record time. And with 2 full-course cautions, they've dropped behind Danny Sullivan's race record from last year, but not far. And Rick Mears has been steadily bringing that pace back up. Mears' average speed right now is 93.6 miles an hour. The race record is 94.09. So if Rick can keep the pace up and not have to economize too much, he can also break his teammate's record if he can run this car to the checkered flag. But fuel is still the question. There's Rick Mears. Coming down the hill now, Mario Andretti, as he has to deal with Steve Saleen to get past that 59 car. And Paul Newman continues to cheer Mario on. Coming to the line now. 3 laps to go. And Mario has closed in just a little bit more. 6 seconds behind Mears. You can see the closure occur now. And Mears should start to pick up a view of Mario.
Well, he probably will, but he's still got, you can hear him there. He was short shifting. He was taking it very easy on the car, not pushing to try to save some fuel.
Rick Mears, the number 4 Pennzoil machine. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Get a quick word with Roger. A quick word with Roger Penske. Roger, how economical are you having to play it?
Well, we're running as economic as we can. We're just using the time up just so we can try to make it on fuel.
Have you got enough so that if you give him the command to go for it, he can make it?
Well, I hope so. We'll just have to see.
Mario eating away slowly. Roger with that wry smile. We're playing it out right to the checkered, Paul.
Yeah, I wonder if Roger really knows. Rick Mears out in front, 6 seconds behind and closing is Mario Andretti. Here's Jack Arute.
Well, Carl Haas just flipped his cigar around. Carl's watching. Can they go the distance, Carl? Can you make it? Or are you holding your breath?
I'm holding my breath.
How close is it going to be?
Got a shot. It's close.
Sometimes, though, close is only good in horseshoes and hand grenades, guys.
Oh, boy. Carl is one nervous man. Mario Andretti with the best finish of this season possibly in store. Maybe a win. Fuel will tell the distance. Mario Andretti carved another full second off of Rick Mears' lead with the 82nd lap now being complete. Al Unser Jr. is still in third. Right behind him is Scott Pruitt and Emerson Fittipaldi, and then Bobby Rahal. But the concentration is at the front of this field as Mario Andretti now can feel the possibility of a victory in his hand. 2 laps to go.
Boy, he's using all of that racetrack, pushing as hard as he can. He sees that yellow car there, Paul, and he's going for it.
Rick Mears still looking backwards. 1982 Riverside, the last time Mears has won on a road course. Starting for the 2nd time in his career from a pole on a road circuit. In fact, they came in to ask him which side of the front row you want to start on. He said, wow, I don't think I've ever had to make a decision like that. Paul Newman wishing Mario Andretti around the course. Roger Penske. And Rick Mears onto the pit straight. Flashes across the line again.
Getting closer.
83 laps are now complete. And the white flag showing to Rick Mears. Can he hold on for this final lap? Mario Andretti closed down to just under 4 seconds as they came across the line. Rick Mears now begins the long climb through the carousel and then up the hill. But you can see the number 5 car, that Hamlin machine of Mario Andretti, is closing in. A right turn ahead and then a left. And then they climb the bank. That burns up this methanol fuel as they climb to the top of the hill. Andretti trying to close in, trying for the best finish of this season. And there he is, right behind Rick Mears. Can he get the entire lap going? Let's listen, see how those engines are sounding. Mario down through the corkscrew, picking up every bit of momentum that he can as he comes down the hill. Kevin Kogan lies just in front of Rick Mears as Mears comes toward the final turn now. Down the hill, making that final left-hander. Rick Mears on the pit straight now. Kogan ahead, no factor in this finish as Rick Mears looks for the checkered flag, and he's done it. Rick Mears has won the champion spark plug 300 and scored a road race victory. I think Roger's happy with that with almost anything else. Jim Williams is there, Jerry Brehan, the members of the crew. Boy, they are pleased with that one. The fight coming to the bottom of the hill between Al Unser Jr. and Scott Pruitt. Little Al, this is a fight for 3rd place as Scott Pruitt can't chase Al Unser Jr. across the line. So Mario finishes in 2nd, Little Al in 3rd, Scott Pruitt in 4th. Emerson Fittipaldi comes across the line in 5th place. Bobby Rahal is 6th. Michael Andretti is 7th. Kevin Kogan is 8th. Ari Leyendyk is 9th. Raul Boisel is 10th. 11th, Dominic Dobson. Then John Andretti, Steve Saleen, Danny Sullivan, Jan Beekes, and Randy Lewis. We'll be back. Rick Mears, 26th career win. It ties him with Roger Ward, who, by the way, was here watching for 6th place on the all-time list. Let's go now to the victory circle for this Sears Die Hard Winner's Circle interview. Here's Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, you would think they just won the Indianapolis 500 the way Team Penske has been celebrating. Hey, Rick, so much for Rick Mears as no road racing expert.
I tell you, yeah, I think that was the main goal of the team this year, was to get me on the winner's circle on a road course, and we finally got it done the last race. I tell you, the guys just did a hell of a job. Tremendous.
The fuel consumption question, we understood from your pits that they radioed in to maybe just back out of it just a bit.
Well, we did. You know, the last 10 laps or so, when we had a cushion with Mario, we did back things down, back to shifting down RPM and everything else to make sure that we had enough to get there. But the Chevrolet just ran great. You know, we were getting good mileage all day long. But at the end, we backed it down a little bit to make sure we got there.
You know, you've always curbed your tongue when people have come up to you, me included, saying, well, you can do it on the oval, but you can't do it on a road course. You've always had nice things to say. Now you're in victory lane, the last race of the year in 1989, and you have won a road race for the first time in the 80s, so to speak. How does it feel?
Oh, maybe there is hope for us old circle track drivers after all.
What's the key? Your feet are all back and they're well now after the crash.
They are. Well, I tell you, you know, the main thing, the feet have been fine for a long time. I think we've really, you know, Richard Buck, the chief mechanic, and Gibbons, engineer, I think really worked extra hard on getting the car to work the way I wanted it to. And the guys just did. I tell you what, for the mileage that we finished and completed this year with this team, is just, the guys are fantastic. And I think that was the key. It really all came together, and we got it together on the right day.
Well, congratulations, Paul.
Well, he gathered up all the points that were offered here. 22. He won, led the most laps, sat on the pole, wins the race. Mario Andretti comes home in 2nd, followed by Little Al, Scott Pruitt, Emerson Fittipaldi, Bobby Rahal, Michael Andretti with a nice run, Kevin Kogan. Great run for Kevin. Ari Leyendyk finishes well, as does Raul Boisel. Now let's go back down to the winner's area. Here's Jack Arute.
Well, Mario, the battle was hard fought, but it didn't come out the way you had hoped.
Well, we were just about there, almost, but not quite. And, you know, Mears was awfully strong today. He just drove just a phenomenal race, just no mistakes. And I did as much as I could. My guys just obviously up to par as usual. They just got me out fantastic on that first stop, and that put us right into play. And from there, the car was just working very, very well. We were just a scant, you know, 10th or so short but you know, it's just one of those things.
In 1982, you came back to IndyCar competition after your Formula One championships and your run in Europe, and you went winless. This year, you do it again. But does the win-loss percentage, does that really matter, or does the competitive nature of this two-car team really be the thing that'll make you look forward to next spring?
Well, I think the latter, the competitive nature of the team and what the team has to offer, I think, is the important thing, and that's what you have to look for as far as the long run. So there's more here than there was before with Michael on board, and so obviously that's not the fault. It's just a matter of just clicking and making things happen. I'm still healthy, thank goodness, and I have a couple more years, I think, to give.
Well, Mario, congratulations. Paul?
Mario Andretti finishes second. Chevrolet with first, second, third, fifth, and seventh finishes. Judd with fourth and sixth, and Cosworth with eighth. We'll be back to talk with the new champion in just a moment. Rick Mears is the winner in the champion Sparkplug 300. Here's Jack Arute.
Well, this man finished in third place after winning the Marlboro Challenge yesterday. Al, you had a little running with Danny Sullivan. What's the story?
Oh, it was nothing much. I thought Danny was going to let me in down there at turn 11, and we got down there, and I got out, and so it looked like he went ahead and stayed to the right, and I went ahead and gone up in there because he was laps down, and he shut the door on me, and we hit, and it didn't hurt it too bad. I just bent my steering arm a little bit, but it was enough to knock the alignment off and all that. So.
But he had his hands full, but he did come home to finish in third place. And the man that went on to finish the champion for 1989 is with Gary Gerould. Gary?
Well, Jack, indeed. This is the best finish that Emerson has had at Laguna Seca, a fifth, and I don't think he cares too much about that today because the championship was clinched a couple of weeks ago, and you've had the time to reflect and savor on it. It's been a terrific year for you and the Patrick team, Emerson.
I'm very pleased, and it's been a great year. I think one of my best years in racing. I'm very pleased, very happy. Today I'm a little disappointed. I couldn't finish better, but that's the way that it happened in the race.
5 wins this year, crowned, of course, by the victory in the Indianapolis 500. A lot of people wondering where is Emerson Fittipaldi going to be with the announcement formally today that Alfa Romeo comes to Patrick, and you're not quite ready to disclose, I guess, your plans. Can you give us any kind of a hint?
Well, we don't know yet. I have not made my plans, and I'm going to make a decision the next week, 10 days.
All right, we expect the formal announcement coming up. Meanwhile, he continues to savor a championship in the IndyCars and kart's first foreign champion. A terrific year for Emerson Fittipaldi.
And a true gentleman, one of the nice men in racing. Emerson Fittipaldi wins the championship. Rick Mears wins the race. Bernardo Jourdain, the Rookie of the Year. We now have this tribute to Emerson Fittipaldi and Patrick Racing. brilliant, hard-fought IndyCar season comes to a close. We'll be back with some final thoughts right after this. Okay. Well, it's been a great year for the kart IndyCars. The final race of the season complete with Rick Mears as the winner, and of course Emerson Fittipaldi as the champion of the PPG IndyCar World Series. The first man to become the series second man after Mario Andretti to become the series champion, the Indy 500 winner, and the Formula One world champion. Rick Mears, the rest of the drivers on the podium now in the final ceremonies as kart season comes to an end. A gala banquet to be held here, and the over 65,000 fans now head for the exit. One of the great seasons, Johnny Rutherford. Another fine year for the IndyCars with more promise for 1990.
Well, it really has been, Paul. And of course, you view the last race of the season with mixed emotion because you know it's going to be a while before you get back in a race car. But the rat race of the season has been very hectic. So you look, you know, you have mixed emotions, but you're really looking forward to the 1990 season now.
We hope to see you back in an IndyCar as well. And for all of those that have stayed with us the entire year, thanks so long.